And a motion to approve the minutes of the April 27th meeting.
Recording in progress.
Keith moved. Second. Second, Troy. All those, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, updates. Draft timeline and work plan. We're always updating that, but go ahead, Tracy.
Yep, there's been no significant changes since last week. I did right before this meeting go in and check on State Board of Education meeting dates and added June 15th as the June date and July 20th as the July date. Note that there is no August meeting, so that really makes July your latest, the last possible opportunity to reasonably bring a report to the State Board of Ed if you end up choosing a November vote date. So hold that in mind, and we should reach out pretty soon to the State Board of Ed with a request to be on either the June or July agenda if you recommend, if you think you're going to recommend a vote of the electorate.
Any questions about that? Okay. Communication from stakeholders. We received a letter from Patricia LaRose from Starksboro, and that was shared with all board members. Everybody had a chance to look at that. I heard from the Liz Sayer, right? S-A, yeah, Liz Sayer, who is working with the student liaison, Isabella Courier at MAUSD, and she's interested in being involved in our engagement with students. We may want to look at finding someone to help with that, whether it's, the student government or somebody in the ANWSD. Yeah.
Maybe I'll ask Sheila first. If that's the appropriate thing.
Okay, great. Thanks. Yeah, as we figure out community engagement, if we have people, that'd be helpful. All right. There was no communications with committee members or questions, so nothing to add there. I don't think Patrick or Sheila have anything new on the projected impacts of the per pupil weighted study yet. Yeah. All right. In terms of office for board members, we worked on that. We had asked Tracy to check what was required by law, whether it was a 3-year term or whether we could have different terms. Tracy checked on that.
Yep, and current law for union school districts requires terms to be 3 years. And the language in H727, which rewrites that chapter, speaks to 1/3 of the seats turning over every year. So also will require 3-year terms indirectly. So that's that.
There we go. All right, so we have some draft language for and we're looking to preliminary approval for the provisions on protecting community schools. The draft language is at the bottom of the agenda.
Also in the draft articles of agreement beginning on page 9, should be the same in both places.
There are a couple of pieces. One was we hadn't decided, or we hadn't, I think, talked about during the 4-year period, the towns whose residents go to a school could vote to close it. We didn't talk about after that 4-year. The way this is drafted is that those towns could also vote to close their schools after that 4-year period. Does it, anybody, do you understand what I'm, okay, great. And so we might want to have discussion on that. And then the other thing was whether or not we also wanted a 2/3 majority vote of the school board. And we tasked Tracy with putting alternative language. The alternative language is we just take it out. So this has the 2/3 school board vote. So those are sort of when we were working on the draft language, those were the two pieces. Kevin?
Do you want to move this as a motion to discuss, or do you want to informally discuss?
I think we can do it. You know, we discussed it last meeting, and this really took what everybody informally said. So I'm happy to entertain a motion. I just wanted to highlight those pieces in terms of what we were tasked with doing.
I'll move it.
All right, Kevin's moving for preliminary approval.
Second.
And Keith seconds. Discussion.
I'd like to make a motion to modify the first paragraph. I would like to add the word equitably between opportunities and for all students. And I would like to delete while increasing cost effectiveness and managing tax rate growth. In the second paragraph.
Sorry, Kevin, can you
I
read
was,
the full sentence?
I was in the first paragraph, not the
Okay,
second.
so
So
the first paragraph, first sentence would remain the same. The second sentence would be an important goal for the formation of the new MAUSD is to enable and enhance the capacity to sustain and grow opportunities equitably for all students, period.
Yeah.
Or you could say just equitable opportunities.
Equitable.
Depending how you want to wordsmith it.
I don't, I have a concern that we're talking money in the leading paragraph.
I agree with that because it feels like the board's job all the time is to try to be cost effective. And leadership and like, I feel like that's just an unspoken.
So we have a motion, yeah, we have a motion to modify. Do we have a second? Second. Okay, Carol second. Discussion on the motion to modify. Go ahead, Troy.
Just this sentence, or is
Are
it
we
Yeah.
talking about the whole thing or just that?
Kevin, did you want to do them all or just do this first?
However you want to do it. I got probably 3 or 4 points here, so you may want to take them one at a time.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. It'll be easier.
That's fine.
And Troy had
You had it.
wordsmith a little bit, which I'm fine with it.
So grow equitable opportunities for all students.
got it.
All right, any other discussion on that? All right, all those in favor of the modification to the language, say aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that modification carries. Kevin, you had some other changes,
Should
go
I keep
ahead.
going?
Yeah,
This one right here shouldn't be here, right?
So the next paragraph.
Yeah.
I would
you
propose
can,
that we
you want to
delete
do that.
The phrase "and local school-based decision-making" in the 4th line. And then as well, strengthen small community schools. I propose to delete small both in that paragraph and the next paragraph where it says to protect smaller elementary schools. I think I'm concerned that to have local school-based decision-making could be construed as they will be operating totally independent from any sort of central office coordination. That's why I'm proposing to strike that. And I think that the term small elementary school is ambiguous and that could even be considered discriminatory. That you're favoring the small as opposed to any other school.
Can I have a second for that modification?
Second, Sarah.
Second, Sarah, discussion. Troy?
So in that same paragraph, the same reason you wanted to take out cost effectiveness on the first one, I would love to take out cost effective mindset, just because I've already heard 3 people who are not on this board pass judgment on that term. And I don't know if it's needed. I think we could just say the MAUSD is to enact policies.
So let me do them one at a
Oh, okay.
time. So we have a second on Kevin's motion to change language in the second paragraph. Is there any discussion on that? All those in favor of that, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any discussion? I mean, sorry, any abstentions? All right, Troy, go ahead with your,
So my thought was to, in that same sentence, take out cost effective mindset.
all right, any just a second on that?
Second.
Second, Carol, any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, Kevin, I think you had some other ones.
Yeah, so maybe I should start with a question. Underneath item 2 after 4 years, item A underneath that says a quorum of the board, 2/3 majority quorum of the board. I'm construing that to mean that if you have a meeting, you have a quorum that shows up that meeting, it's 2/3 of those people as opposed to the full board,
Right,
which I would strike that and make it a 2/3 majority of the board.
okay, is there a second on that? Any discussion? So part of the reason we use quorum of the board is that of concern that it could be a really divisive issue and board members could just decide not to show up and then you could never have a vote on it. So that was the thought behind it.
Is that, again, not ever being on a school board? Does that happen? Like, has that happened in the past? Is there precedent for that?
Well, if you say the whole board, then even if just one doesn't show up.
Well, where my mind went was, so currently the MAUSD board has a vacancy. So if there's a vacant seat and it's the full board, what then it changes the percentage of votes.
So typically it is a quorum of the board when you vote on anything anyway, right? If you have a quorum, without a quorum, you can't have a vote, right? So if you have a quorum, then you vote with, you know, it would have to be warned and on the agenda.
In the 15-member board, that would be 7.
No,
No,
eight.
10, would it be 10 now?
10 to
2/3.
8 would have to show up for a quorum.
8 would have to show up for a quorum.
And as this reads, 2/3 of the 8 would have to vote in favor of the action.
Well, we have weighted voting, so let's make.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Oh,
who
my
knows?
I mean, I think the intent, the way you talked about it last time, the intent was to make it
I don't want to be clerk.
very clear that everybody was in consensus that this was the right move and it wasn't lightly taken. So I guess I don't know what the, I mean, we see this in our federal government, right? You just don't show up for votes, but I don't know what how we could write in protocols or, you know, if somebody willingly doesn't attend 2 or 3 meetings, you know, like if this was a special meeting and I mean, you can be zoomed in, like it gets harder and harder not to attend a meeting, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, you can attend, well, I mean, obviously some things might happen
Yeah.
where you couldn't attend. Erica?
From my point of view, I feel like this is not something that we should really get bogged down in because this is only a first step. I think the board is not closing the school. It has to
Right.
go to the vote of everybody anyway. So I'm happy with the quorum language. I feel like that is workable. And, you know, it's not up, we want it to not be up to the board. So it's important that the actual vote is all the people.
But, I don't know, I'm
Dustin?
thinking on just doing the math, I mean, it takes, what, 8 for a quorum, 7?
Well, it's weighted voting, so quorum,
But then, like, you could,
Huh?
if the minimum
I
of
don't
a
know what a
quorum showed
quorum
up and 2/3 of those voted it, it could really only be a third of the actual.
Not quite.
vote, or even less with the weighted voting or more, I don't know. I feel like if people are feeling that ill about it, that they're gonna miss the meeting specifically not to vote, and maybe it's not, maybe that's not something that should pass. Or they should vote no.
Right, that's.
Right.
I think that's what I'm going on.
The quorum language in there encourages people to show up.
Yeah.
So then there will be a vote and they can have a voice in it, instead of encouraging people to just stay away, force there to never be a vote.
Yeah, you're losing your voice when you don't show up.
So I'll retract that. No, that's fine. I mean, I'm on another board and and you still have to have a quorum, but the vote is of the total board. Who's there. But
so
anyway,
Kevin, how does that so you have a quorum, and then how do you have a vote of the entire board?
So in order to pass, you have to have, so it's a 9-member board. So for it to pass simple, you have to have 5 people vote.
Okay, so,
But anyway,
Yeah.
that's a whole other. So I mean, I was a little confused there and it makes sense given the point that you brought up. So, and this is the last thing.
well, we need a vote on this,
Oh,
so,
did we have a motion then? Or was it-
Are you
I
taking
He
it back?
withdrew, there was no second.
oh,
thought I started with
okay,
a question.
sorry,
You did, with a question.
all right, did you have,
I've got one more.
okay, and,
That's,
go ahead.
that may be good or bad, I don't know. So in the last paragraph, it goes, second line, directors of the new UUSD in partnership with, I'd like to strike a partnership and substitute with and put from. Say that again. So the second line says directors of the new UUSD in partnership with faculty, staff, administration. I would propose, make a motion to change that to directors of the new UUSD with input from faculty, staff, administration.
Right.
My rationale is, like, that partnership construes that, and I hate to say this, but partnership construes that you have to do what is discussed with that.
They're equal partners and they're not.
Yeah, and it could affect the way the board operates as opposed to looking for input and value that input.
Okay, a second for that motion. Mary seconds that. Any discussion? Right, all in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Anyone else have any changes, motions, suggestions, any other? Sarah?
Do we want to be as specific with the words combine, or do we want to actually use something that's a little more option based?
What paragraph?
In the last paragraph where it says it's the intent to combine, what about to
Reconfigure or-
either reconfigure or to expand opportunities for, I don't know, just finding a way to add in the purpose there, not either the panic thought, like this is our goal. I don't know, it might not end up being like
Yeah.
the best way to combine resources in 2 years. Like it might be, oh, actually, we want to have 1 high school and 2 middle schools, or we want to have keep them separate for a while, but we're gonna do this kind of thing. Like, we don't really know, and I just worry that that's too limiting.
Oops, sorry. Sam.
Yeah,
What's the words
I just
there?
realized that's also confusing because
Yeah.
I read that as combining the middle and high schools into one giant school. So it would definitely not.
Yeah,
include
grade
that.
6 to 12.
But yeah, right, exactly. So I would say, yeah, maybe reconfigure or something.
Instead of expanding grades, what about like expanding opportunities?
Or maximizing.
Or, I mean, do we need this language in the article?
Well, what if combined became operate? Because that is what we're asking the board to do, is to operate a middle and high school.
Or to operate?
We want to give the the new board of directors the maximum flexibility in merging.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this
Combined
is a
does sound like a
statement of
directive.
intent. So they'll still have flexibility, but I do think we want to capture what the intent is.
Well, like the intent is to expand opportunities at the middle and high school level, so I would like to see opportunity, like something to do with the positives that will come from combining middle and high school level in here too, as far as language is concerned. Because just telling people we're gonna combine grades is not as positive as it could be.
Okay.
So
Maybe
Tracy,
like
do
we're
you
not going to only operate one or two or whatever number of campuses before, or campus structure would not change in the first, until there's been 2 years of operation. Any potential,
I feel like that's another directive. though.
How about,
If you just keep it wide open with just
Yeah.
operate.
Yeah, maybe
Just-
just, yeah.
to operate middle and high schools and expand
how about
opportunities.
Yeah.
Expand opportunities.
to expand opportunities at the middle and high school?
With the possibility.
You're throwing combined back in. We want to leave for the board of directors. I think.
Yeah.
I think the challenge that this committee faces is you have to write language that could fit in any possible context in the future. I think what we've experienced is, language that was written in our articles of agreement in the context at the time made perfect sense. And that context now is very different. And so people are applying our current context to the language and using that to advance their ideas and thoughts. And we can avoid that for the next group. That would be wonderful.
So what I'm hearing is maybe ending, deleting all the section from and expand grades served, delete all of that, and just, it's the intent of the ANWSD and MAUSD Merger Study Committee to enable the Board of Directors of the new UUSD, with the input from all of those groups, to expand opportunities at the middle and high school levels. Period.
This is best.
So I'd entertain a motion
So move.
and
Okay, wait.
go ahead.
I have a
Troy.
question, just because of what you just said. Is this a forever thing for the new board, or is this just what we're saying to the board? Because the way you just said that, when I hear the word expand, if there's ever something that's going to be taken away, somebody's going to say that is not expanding opportunity.
It's against the articles of agreement.
Because it says it right here, that your mission is to expand opportunity, and you're cutting this course.
What if we stipulate to allow for the possibility of reconfiguring town service?
I just love
Maximize opportunity for students.
Okay, so it's already done. It doesn't seem funding to me. It's just.
That was my question. Is
Yeah,
this
I-
something that the new board is going to have to adhere
They're
to?
gonna have to
Yep,
grapple
it'll be
with it.
their reference.
There'll be people saying that their trust has been just the trade.
Yeah.
Because expand scares me because there's no such thing as expansion forever.
No.
Do you want to sustain and expand or?
I don't like
No.
the word
Oh,
I
okay.
kind of like maximize because that just deals with what you can deal with.
yeah,
Do the best with what you have.
All right,
maximize
maximize.
opportunities.
Yeah.
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 And that could be, we got to take a little bit from this to give to this, to even out this.
So was the point of this this paragraph though, about the fact that the high school would remain untouched for 2 years? Is that our intent, or is that, we care about the 2 years part?
I put it in there to honor your discussion
Yeah.
about the importance of
The high
a union creating the opportunities for strategies to be implemented that accomplish what you want to accomplish at the middle
not
and
too
high school
fast.
levels. But also to be clear that it's a light switch is not going off in year one. But really the biggest piece of it was to convey what you discussed last time, which was the importance of communicating to the community that we really need to work together at the middle and high school levels because of the declining enrollment, because we want to sustain opportunities for our students and grow and do good things. So that's why it was there, but it doesn't have to be there. I would remind you that there's sprinkled throughout this also the articles, this language that says that the new board, let me see if I can find one. After the first year, it wouldn't even have to say that. The Board of School Directors shall make all subsequent decisions relative to the operation of the new district consistent with state and federal laws and these articles of agreement. That's in there a couple places too.
I do think that the 2 years also makes sense, just because transitioning from, being about Abe and Virgins and pushing the two together and deciding how that's going to be divided and smushed together, like that takes a lot of work and effort in regards to curriculum and movement of faculty and staff and all of those moving parts. Is going to take a bit of work and a bit of effort. So I think the people involved in that movement, faculty, staff, students, families are going to need that time to get their heads wrapped around that movement. So I think maybe having that 2 years there might be that little buffer of people not going insane about that quick, like, oh my gosh, this is going to happen right here, right now. So I do think that 2 year window might just alleviate some nerves.
Yeah, like massive campus alterations, I don't know, wouldn't happen for 2 years.
Right.
I think it needs to provide a little bit of that breathing room also.
It's somewhere else in the articles too.
Erica?
So the way it reads now, I was assuming there was just 1 year, because it says beginning no sooner than the second year of the commencement of operations. So, but everybody's been talking about 2 years. So did we want to change to 2 years? One question. And then I like Troy's language of operate, and also Justin's idea of like allowing for the possibility of something to happen, like what we want to happen, if we're just saying our intent. But I don't know, that might, be taken as a directive if it's in there, if it's written down. I don't know. But I did want to just clarify about the 1 year or 2 year difference.
Troy?
If I remember correctly, what you were saying about the discussion, the other big reason is that we separated it mostly for the elementary school part, so that we could have really specific language about the elementary schools, and we didn't actually get to talking too much about terms for the other part, other than the fact that we know you have to run a high school, a middle school. So, after that, it just becomes the nitty gritty.
Erica?
Can we vote on the part under supporting and protecting community schools and table the middle and high school language? And come back to that if we thought about it and maybe rewritten proposal. It seems like we're doing a lot of
I'm trying to write it.
editing it on the fly. I don't know.
Yeah, so I guess one part is though, we need to have clarity. If, you know, we can go back and write something, but we need clarity on what the committee wants in that. So, you know, we need to discuss that further to understand that.
That was kind of my idea, like, can we just discuss this without having to feel like we have to get all the words perfectly and vote on it today? Whereas I do feel like the other part might be ready.
How do you guys want to proceed?
Is it a two-part vote?
I think we should come up.
Yeah.
Right, I
Give it
think we
to-
should work on it because we're getting down to the, just get it done.
So, yeah, so, you know, part of why what we were trying to draft was, it seemed like there's urgency for the high school and middle school because of declining enrollment, and that, you know, we wanted to, and both from the feedback we got from the community and in our discussions, our emphasis has been on the reason we want to do this is because we want kids to have opportunities that they might not have if we don't do this because of declining enrollment. So that's what we were trying to convey through that. And I think those are all accurate in terms of what we've, you know, as a board, or as a committee, what our thoughts are about that. But Go ahead, Kevin.
I think it could help a lot if somebody starts scribing
Yeah.
the discussion.
I think Tracy is doing that. But
I'm trying. Me too.
I might rewrite that sentence myself.
Wait, I was gonna say, Troy, can you repeat what you said?
On the back of that.
So I think I have something.
Oh, well, he's writing away. That's okay.
I think I'm good until this very last part. So I think you can keep, so it is the intent of the current, the intent of this committee to enable the board of directors of the new UUSD with input from faculty, staff, administration, students, families in the new UUSD community, the voters, to operate middle and high schools that maximize educational opportunities for all students of the district, or I'm stuck with the last little part because I don't know what we want to do with the second year.
I think it's two sentences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To
Operate.
maximize.
Educational opportunities
For all students.
for all students of the district.
Uh-huh. And then maybe a sentence that's, any changes in school configuration will begin no sooner than the second year of the commencement of operations, or third.
Right, so let's get clarity. Let's do that second piece after.
Okay.
So this first piece, are we ready to move that language
Can
forward?
you say it one more time?
So it is the intent of this board, or this study committee, sorry, of this study committee, to enable the new board, the board of directors of the new USD, with input from faculty, staff, administration, students, families, and the new UUSD community to operate middle and high schools that will maximize educational opportunities for all. I like just for all.
Oh, yeah, for all.
Got it. Got it.
Maximize middle and high school opportunities. No.
Just
Opportunities for all.
Opportunities for all.
Yeah, we're going to operate middle and high schools. We don't know what the configuration is long-term, but we know we got to operate them. And we want them to maximize educational opportunities for everyone.
Go ahead,
To
Keith.
nitpick, or by saying operate middle and high schools, are we automatically implying multiple of both? The copy editor and he says that it does say that.
What should we say?
I mean,
Why not put a little,
you could put
little,
a
And or.
parenthetical
Yeah, around
A
the
in front
S.
of middle and high schools and then put the S in schools in parentheses as well. I fear that makes it look.
Oh, yeah.
What about to operate schools at the middle and high school level? Then it doesn't specify how many.
There we go.
That will not provide opportunities. enough. Yeah, that's that.
Yeah.
High school level. That's
Yeah,
what we did
I
with
got
that
it.
one, yeah, okay. All right,
So that does make clear that there are more than one school.
currently we have
Perhaps
two.
that is true.
Theoretically.
Will that be true in 20 years?
Was the discussion that if they were to be combined, one would operate, one would operate another. I feel like that covers.
Oh, to operate school.
Yeah, it's highly unlikely you're going to merge middle and high schools just because of the definition of school for state reporting and accountability practices.
Doesn't mean you can't have different schools in the same building.
Exactly.
so this, I don't know, if you guys have the agenda, I've changed
She's
it on.
updating it. as we go.
Updating it, so here's what I have. It is the intent of the ANWSD MAUSD Merger Study Committee to enable the Board of Directors of the new UUSD, with input from faculty, staff, the administration, students, families, and the new UUSD community to operate schools. I have the S in parentheses at the middle and high school level that will maximize opportunities for all. Educational opportunities. Educational opportunities,
Yeah.
perfect. Is that language that we want to, are we ready to move on that? Go ahead, Keith.
One more nitpicky thing.
Yeah,
Number
Mike.
one,
It's good to have a wordsmither.
Can we remove the extra space?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, got it. Already got it. Sorry.
What?
This space way up here.
Uh,
Consider it already corrected.
okay, so actually,
Yeah.
do we want
We
to,
gotta,
and then we'll deal with the number of years. So we're just doing one piece at a time. We did correct that. So this middle high school language, are we ready for a motion on that?
Troy down already has a motion for this because he started with his wordsmithing.
Troy, are you good to move this?
I am very good.
Second,
But the UUSD, is there a difference between a unified union SD and just an SD? Or could it just be USD?
Remember that this is just a working definition, and I'm hoping that as part of your community engagement, you will narrow down an appropriate name. That's part one, a name that you like, and part two, not an appropriate name, a name that you like. And part two is, I've already started getting feedback from the AOE. And one of the things that they say is this is just going to be a school district. So we can take out all the, we can make it much fewer words.
Much prettier name.
Yes.
nice.
I just have one other thing. It says maximize educational opportunities. Is it just educational opportunities or should we leave? Because I also am thinking like sporting opportunities and other like non-academic opportunities that are also part of a school in their functions. Like we already collaborate with sports, Craft, MAUSD, and Virgin. So I'm almost wondering if we should.
Food.
And food. I forgot that key piece.
I would say that all of those things are
But
educational.
I do think that they are. I just wanted to make sure,
But-
because
but I
up
do-
above, we did,
But we could, yeah.
up above, we said like promote resources, opportunities for all students for the elementary school. So I just was looking below inside educational opportunities. I'm
Nope.
totally fine with leaving it educational because I do believe that's
That
educational
food
too,
is
but I'm just
part of-
pointing that out.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point.
If this is an educational institution and all those things are part of it.
I do agree, but I just, yeah, since we're here making word choices. I'm good with leaving it.
Everybody good with leaving it, or do we want to expand on that?
We have, so we don't have it in the very first paragraph. That's your point.
Well, right, I was just seeing like, how, but it's fine. I'm good with leaving.
You could construe the first paragraph to be global.
Yes.
Do you want to say we'll maximize equitable
Yes,
educational
it is.
opportunities?
Pretend I just didn't say that. Just go backwards.
it.
I will leave it
All
there.
right.
I
Um,
do like, yes.
Do you want to?
We have a motion from
We have to
Troy.
grow it.
Yeah. All right, all right, motion from Troy, do I have a second? Ed, second. Any discussion? So my thought, do we want to say equitable educational opportunities for all? Or are we good?
Less is more.
Yeah, we're good. Yep.
Okay. All those in favor of the language proposed, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Let's have a discussion about the time period.
You just need to say it in a positive way. Feel like we want to make as many good changes as we can as fast as possible, but we don't want to make anything that's going to throw us into a dizzy too quick. How do we write that?
Ask a question.
Troy, go ahead.
So I 100% know exactly what you're talking about, and I think about like how leadership would want to think about this, whoever's leading the ship and their task. And I think about our role as we're just sort of researching, trying to get a bunch of input and feedback, trying to think about all the possibilities and trying to arm the future board, if this all gets voted in, with the ability to make the best possible decisions, clearly with the help of their administrative leadership teams, because the people on the board are not professional educators and administrators. So I think about how do we create a language in that sentence or two that is can it be a recommendation, something that's not handcuffing. If there's something that really needs to happen after year one, that they're like, okay, it's in the best interest of everybody that we do this right now after year one, because we now can see the ability and that it should happen, that I don't want to write language that somebody would say, nope, can't do it until year 3.
Yeah, I
But,
think.
You know
go
what I
ahead.
mean?
I think the time period is less of an issue than people, kind of what I heard is people want to know like what's going to happen next year. Right. And even if it was that they were going to combine, like they want to just know. And so I think as long as people have, know what's going to happen, then that, have a year notice, that seems like, nobody's going to be able to do a change until after the first year of operation anyway.
I think part of, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I think part of the point of doing some of this language is also a little bit of a PR and a safety net, and I think that's what they're not gonna rush into a total campus shift
Right.
in 1 year. Like it's not likely to happen. And
Right, where's my kid going to, what building is my kid going to school? What next year? I think Dustin,
I was just thinking, well, I wonder if that if in this article is the appropriate place to put that. I remember somebody came, I think it was Rob Backlund. There's somebody who attended a guest that brought up that really felt that our committee needs to like put out what our vision is. I think that's what he was getting at. It's like what, like,
Yeah. And-
what's this gonna look like a year from now? So what is our vision for what the schools look like in the community, and get that out? So maybe there's a separate document, statement, press release that we create
Don't have that.
after this that gets to that, but isn't in.
This is what
these articles of
governs.
agreement.
Yeah, this is what governs. There is another provision in here that speaks to this issue of, in the articles that speaks to the issue of, right now it's written for 1 year.
Yes.
And so we don't need to do this here. We can just go back to that article and decide if we want to revise that article. Kevin?
But to Sarah's point, it comes down to PR and making people feel comfortable, and for the few words it takes to put it in here as a reminder, even though you're not invoking anything new. And from the conversation I'm hearing is, at first it was like, oh, let's put it out to 3 years, but I'm not so sure the original language we had that said before the second year, is whatever it meant, which effectively means 1 year.
Mhm. Right.
Right.
Probably has a lot of value just to stick back in there.
Ed, sorry,
Oh, go
you had something. Ed,
All right, see, I had something already drafted, but what you're saying is that the way it's written right now could be interpreted as 2 years?
No, I think we were going to change it to 3 years because the discussion was 2 years and that became.
Right, I propose any reconfiguration shall commence on or after the beginning of the third year of the beginning of the operation of the new district.
does that provide the timeline that's appropriate given the demographics and the issues?
That was the piece that I was thinking about as Troy was speaking. So there's, in an ideal state, without any external pressures beyond what we can see right now, over 2 or 3 years to merge governance and then sort of merge leadership and then merge schools is sort of the evolution of the transition that I think makes sense. However, with so many big things in flux right now, to pigeonhole yourself into everyone, to Troy's point, everyone sees this is the best thing to do. Like we're not merging school districts because we thought it'd be a fun exercise, right? This is in response to crisis that we see on the horizon.
It's been so much fun.
If we've done the work to merge and we see this low-hanging fruit that we'd love to take advantage of, but we can't because this language prohibits it, that would be really unfortunate. So.
To that point, there are a lot of parts left to cut out of, like the ANSWD budget, for example. We've done a lot of heavy lifting in the last few years. There's not much less left other than programming. So you're really talking about the longer we wait, the more opportunities that students are losing in our schools. It would really, I think, start to dramatically impact student experience.
Yeah. Erica?
Yeah, I think it's important that if we are setting some kind of timeline, like this is not going to happen until at least the second year or at least the third year, then we have to be very clear about what it is that's not going to happen. Because a lot of things can happen short of putting people in the same building. So I really think that this language in the original one, not the combining part, but the no sooner than the second year of commencement of operations. I think that's a good idea because it doesn't force them to change anything after the first year, but it leaves it open and it's reassuring that, okay, for the first year, you're going to know where your kids are going to be in school.
I'm gonna get Sarah.
Oh, I was gonna say also, you really have no idea if all of a sudden they're like, we're actually gonna phase this in like with the youngest 2 grades, like within the first year, and then that trickles its way up as they go. Like it might start with not everyone, it might start with one small group, and you don't even, I think the second year, start of the second year makes the most sense. I don't think we should go to the 3rd year. I guess that's what I want to say out loud. Because you could be not really affecting everyone, just maybe one population.
Carol?
I think we need to incorporate a word like infrastructure, combined infrastructure, because I would love to see the combined classes and opportunities as soon as the merger goes through. I want to expand languages. I want to expand opportunities, but it's the schools themselves that people are worried about. So being very clear about that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Did you have something?
Just technically wanted to remind you that Article 5, which has a statutory reference, speaks to the first year of operations and empowers the committee to kind of set those guardrails for the first year. And so you have addressed provisions around staffing assignments, school of attendance, which was optional in 14, contracts, transportation, all of those things are also in there in a 1-year time frame, as is allowed in 706.
So this paragraph we're talking about deals only with configurations of the middle and high school.
It's not even, well, configurations,
Maybe we just leave it out.
because we've already got it someplace else.
Yeah, keep it simple.
And then it's part of our PR.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
so I had a discussion this afternoon, as a matter of fact, with somebody that was talking to somebody else. And it's like, where do the savings come from? It's like, well, you're gonna combine central office for starters. So you have 2 central offices going into one. Well, where do the savings come from? So some of this stuff, if you err, as long as you don't start tripping yourself up, if you err on being overly explicit, it may seem that way to us, but to somebody else, it might not be. I agree with Sarah that it's for one sentence, it might, save a lot of hurt from a lot of people, for some people.
I might just add to that point a little bit that I think is really important. What you're getting at is the savings comes from people, and that's the reality. And I think what's important for people to recognize is, in particular, the general community who's not swimming in this all the time. Merger or no merger, each of our districts needs to find savings. And those savings will come from people. The merger, savings still comes from people, because people may react to, we're going to have fewer people if we merge, and assume if we don't merge, that means we don't have fewer people, which isn't necessarily true. The difference is, what do we have left after the reduction of people in the merger versus no merger scenario? And I think the way we kind of spin that narrative is really important as we talk about the realities going forward, and that the savings will come from fewer people.
And isn't it true that it's not truly savings as it is a decrease in the rate of cost?
Yes. Slowing the bleeding.
Taxes aren't going to go down. They're just not going to go up as fast as they would otherwise.
They could go down for a period of time. If we made big sweeping changes and save $5 million in operating costs, you might see a reduction in your taxes. They would tick back up over time and catch up and go past again, but depends on how it's really material.
But that PR is making sure people understand that, because a lot of people are really upset about the merging of the districts before, because their taxes are higher than they were, even though it's 5 years later. So
My
it's
experience is
very
it's been really hard to get people to compare future A to future B. Everyone wants to compare current to future A or current to future B.
Yeah, I mean, the last merger didn't change anything except governance in our districts, because we didn't merge with anybody else. We already were our 5 towns and your 5 towns, and whereas in districts that did what we're doing now, they did have savings.
Well, we did get some kickback from the state, right?
Well, right,
That
yeah,
was
yeah.
their push.
But that was, no, yeah.
So is your point that you think people want language that says we're not gonna make a drastic change within a year or two, or they want the, not us, like, stop saying us, it's not us. The board, the new board and governance and leadership to not make any significant changes in the first year or two, or are they more like, we want to see changes if we're going to do this that are going to save me pennies?
So the whole mystery to a lot of, not a lot of people, but to different people is how's this going to save money, or more precisely avoid costs? And they're not connecting the dots yet. So, and my only point is just to stick that sentence in here about you're not, even though it's somewhere else, and you won't, I don't believe we'll trip over our feet by putting it there. It will just, anybody that's got a question, oh yeah, it's right there. They don't have to go back and understand what type Article 5 was, or
What's the sentence, Kevin?
whatever the one we took out and we're talking about. But there's not necessarily, and there's misinformation, and there's not a lot of correlation to what is actually happening.
But I just come back to what was said right here about how close we are as a large community on both sides of Route 7 to losing programs. Like, you know, we're at the bone. And I don't think anybody wants to see 2 or 3 years. I mean, if you've got somebody who's a freshman or sophomore in high school, you want those changes to happen as quickly as possible, so that your student isn't in the 2-year limbo zone where, wow, wish we could have fixed that a year ago. I don't know. I don't want to handcuff the future board and future leadership of the school district from making the best possible decision for all of the students.
I guess my thought, my assumption talking about this is we'd limit it to 1 year, which is sort of said somewhere else, but it's not
Grades at the middle and high school.
Okay,
Okay, it's no sooner
First
than
year of
the
Oxford,
second year. Okay.
operations. Article 5D, other curriculum.
So let me ask you this, I'm just throwing out a hypothetical. Okay, because I'm just thinking to myself. So we're not going to change the buildings, we'll say in the first year. We got a blue and a maroon building, and we got whatever we got. But we have a AP social studies teacher at Mount Abe who only has 2 sections, because that's all you got for kids. But there's an opportunity for that teacher, because now we're in a unified district and we're all the same teaching staff, to teach over here and teach 2 sections. You could that happen, even though, you see what I'm saying? I want to be able to make sure that kids aren't going to lose out on opportunity because we waited 2 more years and you had to cut 3 teachers on this side. You know what I mean? We went to the language. And in a handcuff, they said, nope, you can't do that. That's not within the first 2 years. I want the ability to make the best decisions to happen, because it is about saving pennies a little bit, but it's also about providing the best educational opportunities with the pennies we have and the pennies we're spending.
And I think 5B speaks to that a little bit.
Yeah.
In blank, all staff will be assigned to the sites and assignments that would have been assigned in an academic year, provided, however, that the new UUSD and staff members may agree to modifications or reassignment based on individual staff and school district circumstances and needs.
So that's already taken care of.
So it sort of says like none of the big major structural changes are going to happen.
But we can do some
and
things.
some of those pockets of opportunities that
In the
present,
first
we
year.
can take advantage of as long as everyone agrees to it.
Erica.
So should we have another sentence here, or should we, one option is we could just leave it how we have it. If we wanted to put in something about, we could say, you know, our intent is that students continue to attend the school that they would have attended in the first year of a merger for the first year at least.
Well, that's the law anyway, or that's what we already said.
Right,
So we're just restating
right,
it.
we're just putting it
For
here
PR
too,
reasons.
so that people will see it connected to the way we're thinking about the elementary schools, that we're also thinking about. It isn't just-
I think it's that possible to have the move. We voted on this year and become operational to have the high schools merged for the following school year. Impossible.
Well, nothing's impossible. But it'd be-
I don't have to get into school choice. That will-
A reading specialist, like,
Kids from
you
one
know.
school to the other want to.
But that's an adult.
So we have that already in that
German and
other article.
That's just what I want to protect. I want to
Yeah.
protect what we can do to.
Enhance.
So we're starting to get beyond the time, in fact, timeframe for this. Do we want to just go with what we have and take it to the community and then decide if we want to add something when we go through that process? Or does someone have some language they want to propose?
Hmm.
Does anyone have any language they want to propose? Okay, then go ahead, Kevin.
So in the original option 2, there was some language in there that ought to a town have, the district allowing a town to separate based on being a town. There's some confusion, or there's some belief, or maybe it's actuality, that by merging these 2 districts together, a town will lose its ability to exit through a state-approved process. And is that fair or not?
No, I think the rewrite of chapter 11, which should be finalized in the next couple of weeks, will not only clarify that pathway, well, clarify and solidify that opportunity in a way that current law does not clearly
Okay,
state.
so that will not be an issue.
It'll, yeah.
Yeah, that'll be good information to have as we go into the community. All right, so
So we're
I
done.
forget, do we have a motion on this language already?
Should we have a motion just to delete that last part?
Yes.
To clarify that that's what you want? So delete everything and expand grades served at the middle level beginning no sooner than the second year of the commencement of operations. Just delete all that.
We
So
did. Second, Carol, all those in favor? All those opposed? The abstention. Okay, and Glory, we did approve the other language. Thank you. All right. So the next piece is the articles, dates of vote, date of commencement of operations.
You had talked about a November 1st, 2022 date of vote and July 1, 2023 commencement of operations. And I got a thumbs up to put it in there. And then a committee member asked a question about whether that was the right timeline or not. So I didn't insert the dates and wanted to take an opportunity to confirm your preferences and allow any discussion or new thoughts around dates.
What article is this?
It is several articles. It would be, we've got blanks for dates everywhere, but it would be, let's see, date of vote.
Article 11.
There you go. Article 11, date of vote. Article 12 is date of commencement of operations, and then it would impact. So it's really 11 and 12, and then I'd fill in the blanks everywhere else.
Okay.
Of course, you can thank me for bringing that up. And I, as I worked through my thoughts to the co-chairs and Tracy, I think I came to a conclusion, but and I believe that we should have those original dates. The sticky points are, we have two towns on the MAUSD side of the house that, in my opinion, weren't in favor of a merger all through the public engagement sessions. And they, at best, haven't changed that, or maybe even gotten stronger against that, if you will. So with that understanding or belief, and could it compromise at least the MAUSD side this fall to not prevail as a merger if we go ahead and do a merger? So that means the vote doesn't approve. The follow-on is this issue doesn't go away. So do you reconvene another merger study committee? If you do, when? Do you do it, wait until those two towns go through their due process and figure out if they are going to exit or not? And if they exit, then it changes the status of that vote on that particular side of the house. And if it doesn't, you're at the second time asking the electorate to vote on the issue. And it's like each time you ask the electorate to vote, they get a little bit more cranky about why you're asking me again too. So without a crisp understanding of where we're at and what the next step would be if A happens or B happens, I think when I wrote that, I was concerned that we weren't going into this thing eyes wide open, understanding those risks. And I don't want, I certainly don't want to drag it out. And at the end of the whole thing, I'm like, well, we got to do this thing this fall, but there's some pretty significant risks with doing that. And then what's the fallback and how you deal with whatever A would be or B would be. And that's where they're all.
Fair.
So if it actually occurred, then while those towns may have left one district, are they automatically in this district?
So it's a timing thing.
Right?
If they are out of the district, if that has been completed,
But it won't have.
right. So
So their process is actually
neither of them will
is
have by then.
voided, because now if we merged and this was suddenly operational, then now they have to go through the process to get out of the new district. Just a different way of looking at it.
Because they did, but right, it would be the district vote and not the particular town.
I'm just curious if there's a way for those towns to say, we're not going to vote on this, and therefore we don't have to go through this process again. Is that legal?
Yeah, Erica.
I might be completely off base, but is there not a way to spin this to say, look, we're putting this in that we're not going to close any schools. So if you vote for the merger, then you know you're not going to leave the school, and so you don't need to leave, and you can have all the benefits of being part of a district. I don't know. That's a thought.
And if also, as Tracy's saying, the state is clarifying that path to leave, and these schools have some guarantee that for X number of years, the school's open. By the time in the future, if they decided they did want to withdraw, they would have, in theory, a cleaner path to do that. I mean, we can
Yeah.
somehow work this into our communications with.
Just a point of history, we went through something similar in Act 46 merger. And the upshot was a dissenting point of view attached to the merger document, the articles.
All right.
And put to the vote and passed.
So if this goes to vote in November, it's just a majority vote of all the towns. Each town doesn't have to ratify it.
District by
District.
district.
So both districts have a ratify.
Yeah.
It's not one town,
No.
can't hold it up for the 5 towns.
Right.
So if the 5 towns get more people to say yes, then you're
On
in.
each side.
And that's what happened with Act 46.
Was Act 46 voted by town?
Yes.
Each town had to say yes.
Mhm.
And what
So that
was,
was
do you recall what the percentages were for Lincoln and Starksboro?
Lincoln passed by 12 votes and Starksboro passed by 25.
So they both passed.
They had to pass, otherwise they wouldn't be part of.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have merged. One
Yeah.
town saying no meant no
Nobody
merger.
merged.
Oh, yeah.
How many times did you go?
So what if we, maybe Tracy, I don't know, Lincoln's further along in their process. And so we sort of need some advice
Time
from,
for legal advice.
legal or Department of Ed
How
in
long
terms
can
of
this
that.
take? Do we know?
Chapter 11, the statutory rewrites have a section, or there's a second bill that addresses
Lincoln.
Lincoln and other districts that are in the process of withdrawing. And to be honest, it was so complicated. I was waiting until we got closer before I tried to understand which sections applied to which towns or which processes. But, and we're at that point, but the rewrite of the law is intended to address not Starksboro, Lincoln and Ripton.
Why would
And
towns be
Stowe.
treated differently in the state?
They,
Depending on where they were in the existing legal
Oh.
process, the rewrite of the statute is trying to address those differences. And so honestly, I suspect that Starksboro would, there's a possibility that they'd have to start over anyway.
So my thought, understanding that this could take a while, is the taxpayer and voter and community member in me says, like, we can't hold up the progress of everybody in all of these towns for a movement. Like, I get the movement, I understand the movement, I respect everything that they're saying, I get it, but the rest of us have to do business. Like,
No, I agree. I think the November 1, I think the original date should be kept. And I think, if it fails, there's a good rationale to reconvene our merger study committee once things are settled in those 2 towns.
and go ahead, Chair.
No.
Right. So go ahead, Erica.
I have in here that I'm looking at November 8th.
Oh, okay. I believe you.
Okay, yeah.
Whatever it is.
Okay,
I was
November-
thinking November 1st was the first Tuesday, but maybe it's the 8th.
So if we get any other information in terms of this statutory process relative to Lincoln and or Starksboro, then we can revisit this. And then if something else changes between now and then, we can also revisit the dates, but we'll keep the dates as they are for now.
Can I clarify the union date? So if we vote and it was a vote yes, is this like, it's much easier to create a union marriage than it is to get divorced? So it's that our time frame, our transitional window is like, is it immediate? Or is it actually not start until June or July, or does it start in March? Like, how does it?
Some would argue
Okay, Sarah,
apparently that
this-
getting divorced is easier
You
than
got this
creating a
one.
marriage.
I didn't, I was distracted by election day.
Creative commencement of
Fair enough.
operations.
But the timeline seems to be like,
So-
they made Ripton delay, and theirs seems like it's never ending. It's been-
Yeah.
And now it's actually even worse. It's more awkward.
A lot of that's the election cycle. And the cost of holding special elections.
They made them go back to the table. We need to talk about it.
So we have the date of vote, date of commencement. What, do we know what that date is?
Election day is November 8th. Thank you for catching that. I did have it right in some places. And I have the commencement of operations July 1, 2023. So the first year of operations would be FY '24. Which means no changes for kids until 24, 20, well, capitalize on all the opportunities that we can, but nothing that's not low fruit until 2025 at the earliest. That seems like soon, and it seems like a long time, all at once.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just thinking of the financial pieces too, that you
Yeah.
gotta change over. And
Well, you still have an elected group of people with this 11-8 election that then starts
Works on it.
convening and coming up with.
Yeah, they'll start in December or January, as soon as you can have an organizational meeting.
you kind of run parallel for that first year.
We did before.
All right, I'm gonna,
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep us moving. I think everybody good with that conversation? All right, so community engagement plan. Full selection of a name. Yeah,
Are we now done with the articles?
our preliminary articles, we are,
Or like, that was it, that was like.
Not our paper.
we have to do a
No, no, I
report,
understand,
but
but
yeah,
we've like,
yeah.
that was our last big crunch.
We should, you're right, Ray, we should recognize that.
Click back.
Thank you.
Actually, I could use a moment
Yeah.
before we transition. I need,
Only take a 5-minute
All
break.
right.
and I need you to enable sharing. And what I'll do is I have a PowerPoint and I will share it with all of you so you can view it on your computers or by Zoom.
And we'll move on to community engagement.
Okay. To help you with options for community engagement, I have prepared a slides presentation that you can access by joining the Zoom, or I shared it with you all via email. For those of you who have a device in front of you, you can look on with me. The idea is that this could be what I would call a roadshow, where teams of committee members could go out and engage with stakeholder groups that you identify to give them an overview of the articles of agreement and get their feedback. And I would encourage you to consider the stakeholder groups that you've talked about previously, both of the school boards, students, faculty groups, and of course, you probably have a way better handle on community stakeholder groups and strategies for engaging them. You could also use time, if we're ready, at the May 17th meeting to do an overview of the articles and get feedback as well, and kind of advertise it as something where you want people to come and do a sort of almost an overview and then a legislative hearing where you listen to people's feedback. You also could think about the strategies for gathering that feedback, whether it's just listen and take notes with your various stakeholder groups, or whether you wanted to do some sort of survey, and if you did that, how you'd want to structure that. So that's my thinking. And I'll just touch on, I'll leave it at that. So, I haven't done any background yet. So it just starts with an intro. The first slide is a review of the committee charge, because there's been a lot of discussion about that. This is just a restatement of the charge that was adopted at the joint meeting on April 26th of 2021. And I made a note at the bottom that even though the full charge speaks to town meeting 2022, you guys changed that to election day. No, that should say November 8th. I'll fix that, of 2022. So starts with a review of the charge, an image of the folks, a slide with everybody who's on the committee. We may need to update that. A slide that's a review of the process. I did, not including tonight's meeting, you have had 16 meetings and a community forum and spent over 34 hours together on this, in case you're interested. So I listed a bullets of things that you have completed, from learning about the context through articles of agreement, and summarize the things that are coming next, that you will revise and refine the articles with your community stakeholder input. You will make a decision to recommend or not a vote on whether to form a unified union, and if yes, it goes to the State Board of Ed, and a possible vote on November 8th, which I will fix there as well. The values and considerations that the committee has been using to inform thinking. This is a list of the big ideas from your values work early on. For those of you that are not looking on it in the shared version, I added some notes of other values that emerged in the process. So I don't know what you'd want to include or what you'd want to talk about, but these are the big ones. And then I added some more in notes that could be for discussion. For those of you who, wanted to be clear about the vision for the future, this was my attempt at capturing your discussion from several meetings ago, right after you reviewed the Nate Levinson report. This may not say what you want it to say, but it's an attempt to get you started around what's your working my working hypothesis, your working hypothesis about your vision for the future. And again, subject to revision or deletion altogether, but again, a potential nugget for communicating in the roadshow. And then an introduction to the articles of agreement, explaining that they're like a contract or a charter, that they can be changed with voter approval in the future. They have to comply with the law, and most of them are required, and we can add optional ones. And I would imagine that you would either share a link to the articles of agreement and or have hard copies for people, because there's no, putting all that wording on a presentation is not productive. So the next set of slides is really a summary in simple terms of what I think you intended with each article and the rationale behind them. So articles 1 through 4, I lumped together and basically have 3 bullets that explain what those are about, that they're merging ANSWD and MAUSD. And right now they highlight that Lincoln is in the middle of that process. And that will need to be revised, that the new district will continue to operate schools pre-K-12 and no new school buildings and major renovations are necessary. I think I put a few things in the notes about, they're required to be there. And the significance of what it means to operate schools pre-K-12, in case there's questions about that. A brief summary of Article 5, the plan for the first year of operations, which speaks to transportation, assignment of staff, and curriculum in simpler terms. I moved 14D out of order which was the School of Attendance, because that also related to the first year of operation. So that those are talking points around that. Articles 6A through C, speaking to surpluses, debts, special funds, and property. Everything's transferred to the new union. They need to be used for their original purposes. Disposal of real estate. A brief summary of the provisions for that. Return to the town for $1 and must be for community public use. VUES, we follow the 1989 agreement, and MAUS and HS and VUHS we would sell. Not that you're going to dispose of those properties at all, but that's the brief summary. 14B, I can now put some talking points in there about sustaining and protecting community schools. And Articles 9 and 10 summarized on the next slide, Board of Directors and their initial terms of office. That has all the key ideas from that. And then other articles are all on one slide. Article 8, they continue to operate until the new one begins. The new one begins at a certain date. Votes are by Australian ballot. 14B tells the state board that we want the efficiencies and benefits of a unified union, not a supervisory union. And 14E requires the new board to consider strategies for community involvement. And then with your input and guidance, we can think about strategies for feedback. I imagine that the areas that you will want to get focused feedback have to do with board representation, supporting and protecting your community schools, that first year of operations, community involvement. You also may want to, if that working hypothesis of your vision goals is something you want to put out there, that's something you might want to get feedback on. And if you're ready, this would be a great chance to get some input on a name. You could ask about hopes and worries as well, or not, because they probably would emerge if you got focused feedback on those other items. You know, it just might streamline it to take that out. And information about next steps. To reiterate again, we said it at the beginning, but I find some things are worth saying more than once. The committee will continue its work to revise the articles. We'll have a legal review of the articles. You'll review pros and cons and make a recommendation. You also have to write a report that goes around it, but that's not necessary for this slide. If it's recommended, it goes to the state board and the ANWSD and MAUSD boards. That's required to give them a copy of the report. But again, you've talked about getting their input prior to finalizing the articles. That's not required, but I think it's a really wise thing to do. And I'm glad you're considering that. The vote of the electorate, and if approved, I started to, you can decide whether you want this there or not. The year one focus.
Go on.
Sorry.
That's a good girl. Okay.
Focused on
Okay, go on.
business operations and governance. And then year two, continuing planning and shifting that focus to educational opportunities. That might not be the right wording, but trying to get to the idea that you were just discussing of, you know, capitalize on the low fruit, but people shouldn't expect major disruptions to what they're expecting educationally until FY25 at the earliest. And I wouldn't even, disruptions isn't the right word, but enhancements, maximization until FY25. Yeah, so that's a possible presentation.
So next steps. Just so we can confirm the groups, that stakeholder groups can, people will talk about who we want to make sure we get out to.
So I have a
Oh, go ahead.
question about that. As a faculty member, not in this district, but on a faculty. I feel like we should present it to the faculty. It shouldn't be the principal, it shouldn't be Patrick. It should be some semblance of this group. That is what's happening. Okay, I just want to make sure because communication gets really slippery.
That would be my recommendation.
Okay, so faculty, staff, you get that down. And then
Both boards, if you can get on their agenda,
Who?
both boards.
students
Can I
and
ask for a special meeting? Like, I'm assuming the boards want to hear this information.
yeah, I don't think it necessarily needs to be a special meeting, right? However they want to do it.
You were thinking about whether there's a value add of a joint meeting. All hear the same conversation from the same people, the same questions.
You got joint meetings sound good?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
Can you make that happen, Patrick?
With coverage pizza, I can talk to. some
Yeah,
people.
right, exactly. Everyone from Virgin's will go.
I think it's interesting that the boards created us, but we do not obtain board approval.
Consent, yeah.
We go straight to the COE.
Yeah.
And I don't
It's a
think everybody
statute.
understands that.
That's in statute. I think chapter 11, the rewrite might change that, but current law just really empowers this body to do its work.
Oh, so could our work be affected by chapter 11? No. Okay.
Well, yes and no. Well, I've been trying to make sure you're aligned. The big area that that I want to make sure we're considering is the Lincoln piece, and now perhaps Starksboro. But I'm
let's just,
keeping an eye on you.
let's do the list and then we'll talk about how we'll reach out to them. So students, and then community groups. Do we want to talk about what community groups and yeah.
When we're talking to students, you want to talk to their parents as well?
Well, that's community groups, I think, right?
Well, I think of parents
As a community group.
part of the community.
Yeah, right. So,
Different investment.
right, for sure. So community groups, one would be parents. What other community groups?
Well, senior citizens. Even though they often get, I'm serious, I mean, they are, I can go over to the senior center and.
Yes, we pay taxes.
But
We pay taxes.
they're
Do
very interested.
we want to reach out to boards, select boards, or?
The different towns, yep.
Fire department, rescue squad.
Well, to be serious about that, like when my father-in-law was getting this building, like the renovations done for this, he went to like the Lions Club, the Rotary Club, and, you know, the Virgin's Partnership.
Civic groups.
All those civics groups, and like presented these, like a presentation like this to all of them to get that message out to the community. And I think that made a huge difference in getting the renovations done on this building 20 years ago. And that push of getting the whole community on board.
They're the business members.
Right, could get the message out much
So-
quicker.
So civic groups, who are the civics groups? You know, we've got the Legion
And Virgin's,
and
we've got the Masons, the Legion, the Eagles. Partnership would be considered a civic group, and then
The Rotary.
Rotary.
I think businesses too.
Well, the Rotary would be connected to the business.
Right,
Yeah,
the Virgin's
those get-
Partnership.
Yeah,
Right, you hit those two.
We have the Bristol core.
Yeah, I was gonna
say, I'm pretty sure.
And then also the fire department, the.
We'll just
Well,
tell a Bouvier and that should take care of the fire department, right?
So just remembering going through the
Right,
the
right.
bond process. And how frustrating it was to have events and nobody came.
Yeah.
I think you have to go to them.
Right.
I think we have to go to them, and I think, and I do, and I think it'd be nice to like figure out how to coordinate 2 or 3 at a time, but have enough people so it's a conversation,
Mhm.
not a big presentation. So that you sort of present the thing and then we talk about it. And it's not 300 people in the room being talked at. I think the more small conversations we can have, even if we just split in 2, but that's gonna be the way.
If we can get
I agree.
300 people in a room, that would be good.
100%.
So I think this is really important for the stakeholder groups, but I kind of feel like we need a completely separate presentation with all of the background information, the state of our demographics and our changing, the changing populations, to make people understand why this is so important. Like, I know in Virgins, there's a lot of people who still think Mount Abe is falling down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
And they
know,
also think.
I need a tour of the
pass
school.
your budget,
I do.
You're so much in debt and we're
Yeah.
just gonna take on your debt.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like the basics of the meetings that we went through, general community does not know or understand. And just this is maybe too high level for a lot of them.
Yeah.
So you need a why and some background
Yeah.
information.
and a more simple presentation. Like in my work, when we do anything public facing, it has to be written to a 6th grade level,
Yeah.
just to ensure that what our points are getting across.
Stephanie, Patrick, can you allow Stephanie to speak?
Should be able to.
Can you hear me?
We just can't hear her. We need a mic on. Somebody needs to turn on.
Oh, and go ahead. Sorry.
Hear me now. I wanted to point out or bring up the idea. I wonder if it would be beneficial to make a video that went out to all 10 town citizens with kind of the basic points so that everybody's getting the same message. It's just an idea.
Thanks, Steph.
Sorry, just for my own clarification again, we were just talking about this. So like, we are going to make a recommendation after all the community input. So at this point, we are presenting all of the information and all of the work we've done to this point and why we've drafted these articles. At some point, if our recommendation is that we think this merger should happen, that's what we're putting this out there. Is somebody trying to sell it? Like, are we trying to sell a merger, or are we just trying to say, we believe it's in the best interest of the communities, do what you will?
Yes, both count.
I'm not sure by law you can sell it.
You can present
So provide
information.
Yeah, sort of really push for a yes.
Right, you can't tell them how
I mean,
to
electioneering
choose.
kind of thing.
Yeah, okay. So I guess there's some nuanced way. I think it's really important to like paint the picture of the reality. Like,
Yeah.
we're at the point in the school year right now in all of these schools where all the kids have signed up for their classes, even at our school, right? And the
No, that's
teachers are going to start really looking at how many sections of 10th grade biology and how many sections of Spanish 3. And like, we're getting the numbers in both of the schools. And it's very different at the high school level than just saying there's 38 kids in the 3rd grade class. Like, if there's 4 kids in calculus 1, taxpayers in the community should know that. Like, that's information that might help them understand where we're at. And I don't know how and what we can do, but I think it's important that we show there's nothing behind the curtain. Like, this is where we are. The numbers are really low in a lot of places for a lot of reasons. And the savings only come from human beings. I am the savings. He is the savings. It doesn't come from paper, pencils, and bus trips. So I just, that's not promoting one way or another to vote. That's just, the reality is
Yeah.
that the next steps,
All that we had to go through to.
yeah, the
To get
next
here.
steps are going to be, humans are coming out and the classes are gone in some of these towns and in some of these places. And just so you know, that's why, like you said, that's why we're here. And that's why we're doing this work, is to try and figure out how to.
So that
not
why
have those
piece,
cuts.
yeah.
And you can vote how you want, but this is what we've learned and this is what we've put together. Does that make sense? Like, I think we just need to figure out how to have some of that information.
Like a graph or?
Some just real numbers.
Yep.
That people can see, like you said, like, that they really understand. When they say we're getting small, well, what does that mean? It means that 8 years ago or 10 years ago, we had this number of kids in these classes. And now we have this. And we're still paying X number of teachers because we have to have them or whatever, but like,
Well, I think the amount of classes is a good way to show that, like, beyond people that we're cutting, like in 2008, you could go up to calculus 4, you could take 7 different kinds of theater class, and now there's one.
yeah, so opportunities are just
Yeah.
restricted, yeah.
Erica?
I do have one question in terms of the message that, you know, the savings is people, because I feel like before we talked about how the savings is people, but the immediate effect is not going to be a bunch of pink slips handed out when we announce a merger. So I think we need to be careful that we understand the savings is in personnel, or we will lose them regardless
Through
whether we
attrition.
merge or not, but it is a managed process of attrition.
Yeah.
Rather than, you know, mass layoffs if we merge, because I want to be careful that we're not letting that message get out accidentally.
And the shared attrition across all the schools
We'll make
is
it
so much
more
easier
manageable.
than waiting in one building for some attrition. Like, that is what allows you, the power is the mobility of a larger unit. That gives the capacity, that is the power to facilitate all of those moves, to not have to hand out pink slips, to let people retire and let people, and then figure out who and what and how to replace with a bigger pie.
I think we can simply say the attrition is coming regardless. This allows us to not lose opportunity
Programming.
in the process, opportunity programming in the process.
So how do we want to approach it? We do, so for the school boards, how do we want to do that? Joint meeting, have Patrick? And then how do we want to present that? Do we want to have groups of people? Do we want to have? How do we want to do that?
Can I just clarify? So it sounds like there's interest in me reaching out to the board chairs and moving Sheila in to say, are you in agreement that we can try to find a joint meeting time for this presentation?
And
As one of several potential events, or as
yeah, I mean, all this community engagement is us, right? So,
and we were going to
how
talk,
are we going to do that? What makes the most sense?
I do really like Steph's idea.
Yeah.
Just can't respond to it. I wanna
Right.
We can,
have
but
the
as far as
conversation.
getting information out, which we want to make sure they're informed, like.
We're looking for feedback is the main,
That's
we're,
true.
we're looking for community input, so.
But I think we gotta do both though, like.
Yeah.
People can get better input once they.
Get information.
get
Then they might come to a
information,
meeting,
gotten up
then they
to
might come to a
speed,
meeting.
understand the, you know, what's really coming, what the situation is, and why we've done this work, and what it is that this merger.
Could just be a voiceover of this,
Talking points.
of this slideshow, that once it's more finished, and then, so it's someone's voice that we're not having to do that part, and then we're collecting the feedback after that piece of
At
it.
the end of the video, we could have something about, please, we could steer them to someplace to, for feedback. We could have a thought exchange, and share them to the thought exchange with feedback or something like
I
that.
was like imagining that I'm going to some group, maybe it's online, and I'm saying they're all coming to hang out with me from 7:30 to 8:15, and I'm gonna press play on the video so that the message is consistent that we're releasing initially. And then I'm gonna, we have maybe some, we ask for their feedback on some of these points, and we collect that right then and there.
So we're not each presenting, the presentation is the video, so it's consistent and the
No, you
same.
don't like this, Tracy?
Oh, no, I'm saying it can't be me that does the video. It needs to be you guys, some of you that do the video.
That do the voiceover on, or whatever it is. Yeah, it doesn't need to be your face. It can be the,
Yep.
some of us do it a lot.
Not my face, not my
And I'm
face.
also assuming that if we do this joint board meeting, though, all the board meetings are televised anyway on Neat
Yeah.
TV, and you have something over here that does it.
Mhm.
So that can be televised and anybody could tune in,
Mhm.
and then they also could hear the questions the board members are asking. Like, that would be a valuable, like, sell that to, like, hey, everybody tune in.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
would be.
I think,
The archive, so they don't have to even. turn it
Yeah,
on.
like, here, go see the board, receive information from the committee.
heavy advertising, and it might be a letter that goes to all select boards saying, here are the
Sunday
2 or
call.
3 opportunities for you to chime in, kind of thing.
I like what we did previously with the launch call process. We had people here and we split up into sort of round table, had circle discussions with, pre-selected prompts.
Breakout
that we
group.
did to gather the feedback, like follow up all the, the sort of advertising, getting information get out, front porch forums, Facebook, school newsletter, maybe a robocall, like invite people to register for an event where they come and have those circle discussions.
Oh, 2:30.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
That would be helpful.
Does the voice need to
Do
be
you want to
people
try
that
to
are
find
not on the
someone
board?
who will do the voice?
What?
A good,
Mary?
clear voice.
Yeah.
I just do it a lot, so I'm not opposed to being one of the voices on there, but I might be a voice that some people don't want to hear, so I want to make sure.
It needs to be someone that's well
Okay,
respected.
So I'm
and
gonna,
that people
I would
like.
happily participate in that, but I'm not sure I'm the right person. I just might have, I'm well practiced, is the only thing I'm gonna say, but.
I'm willing to revise, it's 8:30.
Yeah.
I'm willing to revise the presentation and try and simplify the language. That's not my strong point, so.
Don't ask me.
So Glory's gonna help me. Thank you. And I'll add a slide around the context and the why. And if there are a couple of people between, if Gloria and I do that in the next couple of days, if there is 1 or 2 people that are willing to record.
We could try to have like 4 people or something.
Yeah,
Break it up a little
And break it
more.
up.
would you be willing to coordinate that? If I get the presentation to you in the next couple of days, would you be willing to coordinate that with other committee volunteers?
So do we
Who
get,
are the
like, a
other committee
script?
volunteers? Raise your
That
hand.
would be excellent.
You guys could do it in the teacher's room.
Yeah, there's no-
I'm wondering, do we want to have hire someone to do the
Voice.
video work and
Yes.
make it all?
Oh, Griffin Parody is home from his first year RIT, and he is in media, and I can make him do it for free.
I actually make videos a lot.
It's
It's part of my job, so I'm perfectly willing to.
All right,
part of-
Sarah,
well.
are you good, you and Troy, or do you need
No, no,
more?
we need people from both sides.
Yeah,
We do, we need Virginia.
Erica.
Oh, I have to,
No.
oh, she says no, okay.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, her hand
Oh,
is
no, her
raised.
hand is
All
up.
right, you got Eric.
Hands up.
Hand is up.
You're unmuted, I think. Well, unmute your Sarah.
Does someone need to unmute her?
All right, I think you should be good now. Sarah.
Steph, you have something.
Too many mics over there.
I'm gonna turn,
I was just, nobody has their mic on, so it's been quiet since Miss Rossier spoke. So I was just, if somebody could turn a mic on. Thank you.
all right, now my mic's on. Oop,
Everybody's
all right,
on.
sorry.
Uh,
So working on a video thought exchange and in-person opportunities between May 17th and June 6th. Stay tuned for more info.
All right, any public comment? I don't see any. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Ed raised his hand first.
I'll second.
So moved. I don't think we need a second. You're in favor, go home.
Vote.